welcome to Nuki. This is your first time ever.
Yes.
Before we start, I would like to ask, what is your impression of Nuki podcast?
Man, I'm very impressed. Thank you guys for this opportunity to be able to share the knowledge that I have with our brothers and sisters, African brothers and sisters, to share light on this topic. So I think you guys are doing a great job to make sure that, one of the things that people say is knowledge is power.
Yes.
And so you guys are using your platform to make sure that this knowledge on the topic is being broadcasted so that people can gain the knowledge and make better informed decisions to live a healthy life. So I'm very impressed that you guys, and I think you guys are on a great path to really help people. Anytime you are trying to help people, that's a good thing. And I see the way you guys have conducted yourselves and set this thing up. I'm very impressed, and I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome to season 2 of Nuki and the first episode of season 2. We are thrilled and we are blessed once again to be back doing what we love the most. As always, I'm Spani, your co-host, and Uncle Chi.
Yes, Theo. And then, Spuddy.
All right. So today it's a special day and it's one of the most, I think, important episode for this season that we are starting. We know as African, especially, there's a lot of things in our community, and I think we tend not to talk about most of the time, but today we choose to talk about a very specific topic that have been, I think, some of the most under talk about in our African community, which is called diabetes.
Yes, we're going to talk about diabetes, but it won't just be me and Spudney. We have an expert in that field. So.
Yes, so let's discover who our expert is, who he is, what's his background. Uncle Chi.
Wanna jump right into it? So
let's.
Can go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you're here for.
All right.
Who is Ken?
My name is Ken. Last name Riverson. I'm actually a Ghanaian. I was born in Ghana, in Africa, in West Africa. So I've been in the United States for quite some time. I'm a clinical pharmacist, trained pharmacist. I have my doctorate in pharmacy.
Wow.
From this University of St. Joseph in Connecticut. I moved to Colorado a few years ago, and I'm working currently with Children's Hospital here in Colorado. But prior to that, I did adult practice where we treated people with diabetes, and so it's something that I'm really passionate about, to make sure that people gain the knowledge on this topic. Even at Children's Hospital, we see kids with diabetes, so it's a good topic to discuss with our brothers and sisters in this country and also around the world.
Wow. Wow.
That's a lot of studying, educational,
yes. So
it is.
What I want to know is, why did you choose to focus on diabetes?
Well, diabetes was one of the main challenges I had when I was in pharmacy school. Okay. It kind of really, the way it works and affects the the body's certain organs, and treatment wise is very complicated. Being from Africa, we are not used to diabetes because of the food that we eat, and even it has more carbohydrates, but we do more physical activities, physical labor work. You walk to school, your parents walk miles, you do kinds of things where you don't see a lot of obese people in Africa. Like when I was growing up, I think today things have changed on the continent because of westernized things. But when I was a kid, everybody was pretty much skinny. It's not because you were hungry for food, but it's just because you go outside and play soccer, you go outside and play with your friends. So we never had that kind of condition, that disease. But here in America, it's very common because of the way their processed foods are. And now we've noticed that this disease doesn't just affect just Americans. It affects our African brothers and sisters and all kinds of minority groups. So it's something that I had a tough time grasping in pharmacy school. And when I graduated, I made an effort to really understand more of the disease. So I kind of basically went to South Dakota to work on an Indian reservation. So I was on the reservation with Native Americans in a hospital, a federal government hospital. And over there's so many people with diabetes. So I was able to help, and I was able to expand my knowledge on the disease. So I think now with more of our brothers and sisters, having this chronic disease, it's my passion to really put some information out there, some knowledge out there. And also one of the things that drove me into this was my mom. She got type 2 diabetes. At some point she was really obese, and I was able to help her lose weight, and also for the diabetes to get out from her bloodstream. That she's no longer on insulin or any medications for diabetes. So we thank God for that. So I think it's the same way. I think when people know the knowledge about this and the help that they can get from it, they can be able to live their lives not being bound by this disease and the medications, which are so expensive also to treat.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
That's really really great to know that. So I know you mentioned type 2 diabetes. How many type of diabetes are there? Because usually you hear type 1, type 2. I don't know if there's 3 or 4. Those step, like we have to be able to, the people need to understand when somebody says type 2, what does that mean? Or type 1, what can you explain to us? What are the differences between all those types?
Okay, yes. So there's 2 types of diabetes. There's type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus. And then there's also a third one that is called gestational diabetes. Now with the gestational diabetes, it usually happens during pregnancy. So when a mom is pregnant and she goes into labor, they may discover that she has gestational diabetes. And what basically means is that at that point, the insulin in her body and the blood sugars, something is wrong. And so, they will end up often giving birth to a baby that weighs more than 9 pounds, which is about 4 kilograms. So when you end up having a baby that weighs, if you end up delivering a baby that weighs more than 9 pounds or 4 kilograms, that increases your risk for diabetes at some point, because at that point you have gestational diabetes, and then that's how you end up with delivering a baby that is so big like that. The type 1 diabetes is something that happens where usually the pancreas has beta cells. So the pancreas is an organ that's below the stomach. So that beta cells, when it gets really destroyed, the body is not able to produce enough insulin. Maybe little insulin or no insulin at all. And when that happens, we say somebody is type 1, and it's mostly genetic. So it can happen to younger children or adults.
Okay.
But if you have type 1, usually at a younger age, it's known. So the doctors would discover that or diagnose you with it, and then it's like a genetic thing, So either you have that at a young age, and then you grow up with it. But there are medications to treat all these diabetes. Type 2, basically, there's two interrelated problems with type 2, where the cells in the muscles and the liver in the fat is not able to produce enough insulin. So sometimes there's insulin resistance. The body is not able to, the cells cannot use up the insulin. And the other problem too is that the pancreas does not produce enough insulin at all. And so when that happens, we say someone has type 2 diabetes. And the type 2 diabetes is common in adults.
Okay.
But recently, there's been increased cases of children developing type 2 diabetes just because of obesity. Obesity is a main risk factor. And with processed foods and things, salt and other things going on with our diet in the United States, you see younger kids today developing type 2 diabetes. In the past, it used to be like an adult type 2 diabetes, but now you have kids that will end up having type 2, especially if they're obese. But the type 1 is basically genetic, just affecting. It's something when you're born, it's just genetic thing that maybe passes on from family blood, especially where people will pass it on to their kids and stuff like that. So it's something that when it's found, you can see that in the pancreas, they have these cells in there called beta cells that is basically destroyed. And so the pancreas cannot produce enough insulin, or maybe no insulin at all. And so in that case, you would classify those people as type 1 diabetics. And the type 2 is just when there's insulin resistance, or the body insulin is kind of impaired, where it's not able to produce enough insulin in that case. So
with type 2, can I develop that as being healthy adult as I am today? Can you contract that, and can that be something, or I'm no longer I've passed the window of contracting type 2 diabetes? Is there like a window, a certain age?
Yeah, so type 2 diabetes increases as we get older.
Wow.
Especially from the age of 45 years old and older. So when you're at the age of 45 and older, your risk increases for type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
So when you get to that point, if you're healthy, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you're not healthy, there's certain things that certain signs and symptoms that puts people at risk. Besides that risk factor of being older, if you have some people, there's fat distribution in the body, so they store fat more in the abdomen rather than like their hips and thighs and other parts of their body. So in that case, for example, we say if you're a man and your waist circumference is, if we measure that and it's over 40 inches, you're increasing your risk for type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
And if you're a woman and we measure your waist and your waist circumference is over 35 inches, you're increasing your risk for type 2 diabetes. And then there's other factors like obesity. So like you say, if you're healthy, that means if you're healthy, you're not obese. But if you're obese, obesity is a main risk factor. It's a main risk factor for type 2 diabetes. And then we have the other kinds of things that can also increase your risk for diabetes. Sometimes people will have certain dark skin. pigmentations in their necks or in their armpits, those are signs to look for. Maybe there's insulin resistance. Sometimes it's often insulin resistance causing those dark pigmentation in those places. Those are risk factors to look for. And then there's, as you said before, family history.
Yeah.
If your parent or your sibling has type 2 diabetes, your chances of you getting type 2 diabetes is also high. So you have to make sure if your parent or your sibling has type 2 diabetes, you kind of do certain things, have certain measures in place to help reduce your chances of you also becoming type 2 diabetic. And also there's race and ethnicity problems, and that is something that we don't know why, but African Americans or black people, Hispanics, Asians, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans, they are at higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes than white people. So if you're black, that's a risk factor itself. If you're Hispanic, that's a risk factor itself. So you just have to make sure you do certain things that doesn't continue to increase your risk for the type 2 diabetes.
Do you think it has to do with the way we eat? Because one example would be seasoning. If you mention those races, when it comes to their food, they make sure we're seasoning and more than one or two seasoning.
Yeah, I think in general, we tend to eat more carbohydrates. So the problem with diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, has to do with glucose.
Okay.
Glucose is the main energy source for the body.
Yeah.
For our body, for the cells to use. And there's two ways you make glucose, which is which is sugar. So either you make it through food or the liver makes it and stores it. So there's two things you can make glucose: food that you eat to get glucose, which is used to make energy for the body, for the cells in the body, and also the liver. The liver makes glucose and stores it. Now, when it comes to food, I think most of our diet is really loaded with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is just basically glucose, it's sugar. And we do need carbohydrates for energy, but it depends how much you're eating these things. And with black people and Hispanics and other ethnic groups, we tend to eat things which are not really balanced, like you were saying, with these all these seasonings and spices and certain things, fruits and vegetables. We are not known to be eating those things, and sometimes eating vegetables and fruits can be costly. Especially in this country.
Oh yeah.
Those things are very expensive. So for somebody to spend almost $8 or $10 on a salad, versus
they call that grass.
Exactly.
When you eat that, they say, "Why are you eating grass?
Are you a goat?" Yeah.
Right. Versus if you can get like McDonald's, Big Mac with a good amount of Coke, and French fries, for
you will be full for the rest of the day.
Exactly. So we tend to go towards the foods that are heavily not really, it's mostly carbohydrates, and we don't balance it with certain fruits and vegetables most of the time. Like I said, if you're eating those foods and your physical activity is low, you don't exercise, then your body, you're gonna keep putting up weight. And like I said, obesity is a main risk factor for type 2 diabetes. I mean, you're already black or Hispanic, and now, so you're already at one risk. And now you're
adding more,
eating unhealthy. That's a second risk factor. And then you gain weight, obesity, so that increases your risk even higher. And so when you get to a point where, like I said, the fat distribution in the body, if you have more fat in certain areas, more especially in your abdomen area rather than your thighs and your hips and other places, then you're adding more risk. You're increasing your risk. The thing that is interesting about diabetes is you can have type 2 diabetes for years without having any symptoms. And I'll go over the symptoms of type 2 diabetes so people become aware of it when they do have it. Because if it's not being treated, then you can live and think you're healthy, or maybe if you think you're fine because you're not having those signs and symptoms, then at some point it can get worse where you can end up being in the hospital. So it can take years without you having even signs and symptoms. Some people, they'll have signs and symptoms right away. But it's very important for our viewers and for people listening to really understand the signs and symptoms. And if you have these signs and symptoms, you should really make an effort to book an appointment to see your primary care doctor to explain some of these symptoms you're going through so that they can properly diagnose you, to make sure that because if you're diagnosed early, that will help prevent certain emergency problems from happening later on.
Okay. So you talk about the risk factor of the symptom and all these things, and some question, is it true that if you have untreated diabetes, can that lead to a defect or an effect on your body? For example, like losing your thumb or your finger or your side vision, or get to a point where a part of your body, they have to amputate it because you did not do what was right or take the right precaution to prevent that. Can those risk factors are true, or it's just something that just want to hype up people to take this seriously?
Yes, thank you for that question. It's very important because I think, the complications of type 2 diabetes is far worse than what people think it is. But like you said, it can affect your vision. So most people with type 2 diabetes, usually some of their vision, they can go blind easily.
Wow.
If they don't go, especially make an effort to go to get their eye exams yearly to make sure that glaucoma and certain things are not being caught in early, So vision is something that happens. But before I get to the complications, let me talk about the symptoms.
Yeah.
The signs and symptoms, because it's important for people to know if you're having these signs and symptoms, that's something that you should start to make an effort to go see a doctor. So increase thirst. When you become thirsty regularly, it's not like you've eaten and you want something to drink. It's like constantly you're drinking water. So increased thirst is one of the signs and symptoms that you may be having type 2 diabetes. Okay. Increased urination. So you end up going to the bathroom to pee a lot.
Okay. So
it's not just once, maybe you get up and go pee, or twice because you just drank water, but you can see that you're peeing more than usual. So everybody pees, but if you see that you're peeing more like every hour or so, you have to run to the bathroom to pee. There's a problem that is maybe related to type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
Hunger. They have to keep eating. That can also be a symptom of type 2 diabetes. Blurred vision. You don't have any blurred vision, but all of a sudden things are becoming a little bit blurred to you with your vision. That's something that is another sign or symptom of type 2 diabetes. And like I said, sometimes people will have pigmentation, like dark areas in certain parts of the body, especially the neck and your armpit. If you see that dark pigmentation in the neck, often that could be that there's insulin resistance.
Okay.
going on. So that's something that you have to also look for. Sometimes people become fatigued. They become really tired, like
Just
just
like that without
tired.
doing anything.
Yes. Yeah, so that's also another sign and symptoms of that you're more likely to be type 2 diabetic. And also tingling in the feet that you mentioned. Tingling in the feet. If you start having tingling in your feet, that's something that you need to talk to your doctor about, because that tingling in the feet could be as a result of type 2 diabetes going on. And so back to your question with the complications, often people will have no sensations in their feet, so they can step on the nail and not even feel that they step on the nail.
Oh, wow.
Because the nerves there have been damaged with type 2 diabetes. What happens is it damages your nerves that goes into your feet. So even if you step on the nail, you may not even notice you've stepped on the nail until maybe you get home or something and you see that you're bleeding. But without type 2 diabetes, or if you're a normal, healthy person, if you step on the nail, you're going to really scream. You're going to really feel it.
The moment you're going to feel it.
But if you don't have that kind of sensation where you feel it, oh man, that is a thing that you really need to see your doctor, because the nerves there may be already damaged. Yeah, so people with type 2 diabetes, they have to go for regular foot care, where they have to check their foot and make sure their foot. Otherwise, it will get to the point where they will have gangrene, so they have no sensations and infections, where their feet may have to be amputated, like you're saying. And then I've seen people's toes being amputated in hospitals, and people's leg maybe have to be amputated, because if you're not taking good care of your foot and you have type 2 diabetes and you have infections, it will get to a point where we may have to cut your foot off,
Is it because they're trying to prevent it spread to your, just like cancer or something?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this diabetes thing is really serious. It's not a joke.
Yes,
honestly.
and there's more complications. It can affect your cardiovascular system, affect your immune system, affect your kidneys, affect your liver. So it's very important, your kidneys, your liver, all these are important organs that type 2 diabetes can affect. And sometimes with men, it can also affect their sexual performance.
Wow.
So, all these are very important. Sometimes men are blaming the woman, but maybe it's not
especially
the case,
old African men.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. This is very important, guys. If you guys are watching, go check, especially since we are talking about this, one thing that I feel like, especially the African community or African immigrant, most of us that came here, I think as refugees or some type of way that we were brought here, we have a full coverage such as Medicaid that is given to us, but there's a small percentage of people that take advantage of it to go,
because it's very expensive
to go, seek a health professional or have a primary care physician that they can go on regular basis, because everyone assume I'm fine, I'm healthy, I'm good, I don't need all these things. But the thing that Ken is talking about, those are very serious things. Like,
and there's some stories.
There are some stories,
Wow. Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm just blown away with the information.
Yeah, because I'm glad that we have this topic, especially on this diabetes thing. I believe last year or a year ago, with our younger African brother that just passed away suddenly. The one I think it's from Ghana, if you remember, the drummer.
He's talking about Divine. Yeah.
Divine.
Yes.
That was
Same church.
Church.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, with when the news broke out, a lot of us was like, oh,
I mean, it was very shocking.
It was,
at
like,
the young age.
it was. So you look at him so fine and everything, but suddenly you wake up the next thing you heard the sad news. Like, that is something like, we have to take this health.
As Africans, automatically it's like, oh, witchcraft. Somebody did not like
Right.
the guy, but really is like reality is like, how are we taking care of ourselves? We had another case too, but like we older people where they just fall and then they're gone. We cannot say it's diabetes, but we don't know exactly what happened. But like it has to do with high blood pressure most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is very important. People need to take this health, especially when we have Medicaid. Why people have to pay out of their pocket? We most of them.
I pay a lot of money for insurance, so yeah.
You see, but the vast majority of all Africans, because look at it. If you come here as a refugee, you have from the age you came all the way to maybe you are 18. You have that, like, use it for your advantage. Your parent, take advantage of it. Use it. Because if there's something that they can cut earlier while you still have that insurance, they can prevent you for a long term, the follow-up, all these things they need to do because you have that. But the moment you lose that coverage, you no longer have the money to cover for those bills anymore because those bills are not cheap.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of money. So what would you advise people to, like, how often should they do doctor check or check in with the doctor for physical and other things?
Like annual checkup.
Yeah, I mean, once you develop type 2 diabetes, you have to follow up with your doctor every year. There are certain things you may have to follow up with every 6 months with labs and tests to make sure. And also, you have to make eye appointments to see your eye doctor every year to make sure they're checking for your eyes before you go blind. With the labs and tests, I believe you have to do every 6 months. It all depends where your type 2 diabetes is because there's something called hemoglobin A1C, and that's when they do once somebody is type 2 diabetic, this hemoglobin 1AC is one of those tests where they check to see your level. And some people their level could be at 10%, 8%. It all ranges based on the individual. So some people, your doctors probably, when somebody have type 2 and the first thing is you want them to lose weight if they're obese. Losing weight is a main key factor. If you're obese and you've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, if you're able to lose weight, and not that you should lose weight like rapidly, like do some crazy thing where you're starving yourself to lose weight, but the effort should be in exercising and eating small portions to lose weight, because you don't want to starve yourself, because what happens is something we call hypoglycemia, which is HYPO, hypo, that means low blood sugar. When people have low blood sugar, they can easily faint because they become weak and the blood sugar goes down. So they haven't had anything to eat, the blood sugar goes down. Sometimes they could be sweating a lot profusely. All those things, we don't want that. So that's how type 2 diabetes is very tricky, because when you have type 2, your blood sugar is high. There's blood sugar in your glucose, your blood sugar in your bloodstream is already high. And so we say hyperglycemia. But at the same time, if you're not eating and you're starving yourself, you can go into hypoglycemia. Both of them are both bad for you. So we want people to be able to eat normal, but not, in the same way they used to eat before. But, your diet has to change, balanced food, small portions. If you're gonna have meat, not like a whole bowl of meat. If you're gonna have rice, just small portion. So basically, you have small portion of, maybe you balance things out. You have your rice, which is your carbohydrate, small portion. You have your vegetables. In a day, you have to have certain servings of fruits and vegetables in a day. So I would say, small portions. You're not starving yourself. So, based on your hemoglobin A1C, you have to, when you go for your checkups, your doctors will design a plan that is designed for you specifically, that will help you manage the type 2 diabetes. So one person can have type 2, the other person can have type 2. Your hemoglobin A1C level could be higher than this person, but the doctors have to just make sure that the plan is individualized for each person. The plan to manage the diabetes. So yours could be different. And so if you are losing weight, it's a good thing. They'll keep monitoring and doing other labs for you. If you are not losing weight, they really want you to lose weight. And also, increased physical activity is very important. Before you become type 2 diabetic, I think one of the things we have to stress about is eating well, and exercising, making sure that you're losing weight, not eating too much sugary stuff. You can have ice cream and other things every now and then, but some people, they go overboard,
Or some people just cut it off.
They cut it off
completely. So
let me ask this: with all the Western food product, there's some type of study to it. Like they can, you look on the back, there's like calories. This, they have all those on the back.
One, are they telling the truth?
So that's on the Western side, and most of us from African community, we don't eat the same food product. We not all the time, but occasionally we do eat some of what we find here in this country. But most of the time, we tend to eat our native food from back home. And in your study, is there a way, has there ever be any study to study the food that we eat from back home to determine how many calories are into if let's say you make jollof rice, okay, what the amount of calorie into this? If you eat pepper soup, like what is, has there be any way so that we can say don't eat too much because the amount of calories into this jollof rice is too much, maybe you need to cut it down? Like, has there be any type of that study? Because most of the time when you talk about it, people's gonna be like, well, I ate all those food, my great parent ate it their entire life in Africa, what are you trying to tell me now? You see, we have this kind of people pushing back into this.
Well, that's a very good question. I don't think there's been extensive studies in mostly on our African diet, especially in Africa, because for type 2 diabetes, like I was saying, it's been around for years, but it's more we have more cases here in the United States, maybe more than any part of the world. So like in Africa, we regardless of our food, our local dishes and stuff, I think with now more people, there's been some increased cases of diabetes in our countries. And so the researchers there are studying it, but I think what they're doing now is they're not really focusing on calories per se, because with our diet it's really really hard to really find out the calories and things like that. But I think like I said, this westernized food, and it's really interesting. when I was a kid, we never had Burger King in Ghana. Now they have Burger King in Ghana.
In Ghana,
You know, the food
McDonald's,
yeah,
pizza.
yeah, the food that we ate, you know, as children and when we were growing up as kids, and our grandparents and our parents and our ancestors, even though it was mostly some of the carbohydrates, there was also meat and other things that provides protein. You know, we come from places where we also we put certain things, you know, in our food, like seasonings, herbs, and other things, and so we kind of mix it up. Even though we eat more, mostly carbohydrate stuff, we are also physically active, you know, in our countries, and so now the type 2 diabetes is growing in some of these parts of Africa, but I don't think there's enough cases, and even though they're researching now on some of these things, but I think with the United States, with calories, they've realized that obesity was becoming the problem, you know, and is the main risk factor for type 2 diabetes. So with calories, people, what you're taking and you're eating all this stuff, you know, the numbers say, okay, if you ate a hamburger, you've consumed maybe 500 calories.
That's a lot.
And then you go eat French fries to it, you've consumed these calories. And then the
You add
Coke have this. So they started to do all kinds of things and diet Coke and diet this and diet that, and there's no calories in some of these things. But I think, you know, if you are in this country and you are African or black, you're already at risk, you know. And so with our foods, it's really hard to eat, and, you know, physical activity is pretty low in this country.
Oh yeah.
You know, you go to work, you come home, you're tired. You can't go to the gym. You can't even walk in your neighborhood sometimes, you know, all kinds of things. And, you know, people just, even from their homes to go to the grocery store, they have to drive. You know, sometimes everything is, you have to sit in a car. And those are things that start putting people into trouble for, you know, gaining weight. Because, you know, you're in a car most of the time. Everywhere you go, you're going to church, you're in a car. You're going to the grocery, you're in a car. Sometimes it's even 5 minutes away, but you just get in your car, you know, to drive, you know. And then you come home, you sit to watch TV. So we do a lot of sitting, then a lot of getting up to work around. You know, sometimes, you know, you could eat. What I always say is, when you eat, you can eat what you want to eat, but make sure you're being physically active.
Right.
So even if instead of just eating and just sitting on the couch to watch TV and have ice cream, maybe you can just, you know, sweep around the house. You can maybe clean, just to keep yourself moving. And by being up, you can vacuum the place. You can maybe say you helping out with the kids stuff, or you're playing with the kids, like, let's go outside, throw the ball around, all these things, you know, because what you put in, you have to be able to put out at some point, you know, burn some of these things and not take them in and not be physically active. You know, it gets to a point, it gets harder because people want to go to the gym, but working out and exercising at that point, it gets harder, you know, and there's no motivation. But if you eat, you know, you got some energy, because food is a source of energy.
Yes.
And then you're able to burn some of the energy, because now you feel like you have energy to want to sweep around the house. You want to do something. You want to go help a friend move something. Wow. All these things are good, you know, instead of maybe driving. If there's a small store, convenience store next to you, instead of
ride a bike or something.
Ride a bike, you know. And that's one good thing about Colorado, you know. I like the physical outdoor activities is plenty, and so I think our people should take advantage of it. There's so many different parks, nice bike trails, hiking. All these are nice things to do. You don't have to do anything to impress anybody, but do it. Just, you know, if you're able to go for just a mile walk after eating, just do it.
Just
if
do
you're able to ride your bike in the afternoon to the store to pick up maybe a gallon of milk, just do it. You know, sometimes it's not just driving in the cars and just going to this, but they've designed this place, you know, sometimes you have to get on the highway to get to the store. But if it's
deal
something
with traffic and all these
and you're
things.
sitting and it's all stress and all this stuff, so it can get a lot. And even, you know, some of the long-term complications of diabetes is like, one of them is like depression. It gets to a point people get depressed, you know, with the disease, how it takes a toll on them, their physical bodies, the medications they're taking, and, you know, all the stress with, you know, like you said, traffic and all things, work-related stuff, you know. So it builds up, and next thing you know, you're developing other diseases also. So
so this health situation, health is complicated, honestly.
yes,
Health is complicated, and to be able to avoid all this complication, we have to start early, like taking care of our body early on, and we will be able to prevent all those complications later on. But I see you got some poster. You want to talk to us about what you have here, or?
Yeah, I think some of the things I already mentioned through our discussion, this is a roadmap to better managing your diabetes, and this is a roadmap that when I trained a little bit on diabetes, and this was provided by the American Diabetes Association.
Wow.
So the ADA provided these posters. So these posters are made professionally by the American Diabetes Association to help, you know, for me to be able to have a group of people to be able to go through, or even like, you know, it could be one person for me to go through this, to show them. Sometimes people have to see pictures to really understand some of the disease, understand this disease, and take good effort to manage it. So I already explained, you know, diabetes is basically the pancreas not being able to make insulin or little insulin, and also sometimes resistance to insulin. So that happens with type 2 diabetes, and that happens with type 1 with just no insulin at all. And glucose is what we need, as glucose is just sugar. So in the body, you know, blood sugar goes through the body, and we use that sugar as a form of energy. So we get it through the food that we eat, or through the liver making it and storing it for us. So the first poster on the right, you can see, you know, this is a roadmap basically to help people to get to their goal to manage their diabetes. So some of the things we talk about, definition of diabetes is there. You can see that, and also how much we eat, what you eat, and when you eat. So you know, like that poster says what you eat. So what you eat, we've already discussed these things.
Yep.
You can eat whatever you want to eat, but make sure what you eat is small portions. You know, don't make it all carbohydrates. Make sure that your plate is just filled with everything. You know, you have your meat for protein, you have your fish for protein, you have also your rice or your fufu and all kinds of things there. But then you also have your greens, your vegetables. You know, it's very important to have some vegetables, and you know, and then make sure during the day you have some fruits. You know, you eat fruit. You don't have to eat so much, but if it's a banana, if it's orange, or if it's pineapple, something, you make sure you have some fruits, also strawberries, whatever. And also how much you eat. Like I said, don't eat so much. You know, like just because you can afford it doesn't mean you should go for it. You know, small portions. And also when you eat, it's very important. It's important you eat. You know, if you want to eat 3 times a day, it's fine. If you want to eat twice a day, it's fine. Just make sure when you're eating at a certain point. I would say if you have type 2 diabetes, my advice to my mom was don't eat past certain time at night. So, you know, in the evening, make sure you finish eating by latest by 7.
So
By dinner, you should have your dinner by 7, because if you have dinner by 7, you finish eating dinner, and then you go for a walk, especially in the summer where the weather is nice, daytime, you go for a walk for maybe half an hour, and then you come home, maybe you come and help the kids with whatever. If you have kids at home, help them with their homework, with their bath and other things, you read to them, and then you can be able to go to sleep maybe latest by 9:30, because you get up, if you're single, and you go to work, it's different. But when you have kids, you have to get up early and prepare for the kids for school. So getting enough sleep is also very important for your body. So make sure you don't eat too late. Some people eat like 11 p.m. and all that, and then you have to give yourself time for the food to digest. So when you eat and you go to sleep right away, especially if it's full of carbohydrates, it's just a way where it doesn't get digested, and you're just gonna keep building fat. And sometimes when that happens, you see people beside building fat in their bellies and stuff like that. So fat is not evenly evenly distributed throughout the body, So those are things where I think, if you give your time a chance to eat dinner early, and then if you get a little bit hungry, you can have a small ice cream or maybe a fruit.
Yeah,
and then
or a snack.
A snack, exactly. And then you go to sleep if you feel like you're hungry around 9. But if you set your time where you go to sleep, a certain time, make sure you eat 2 hours before you go to sleep. Don't eat and just go to sleep right away, because it doesn't help your body really digest the food, and the food doesn't help you. It's just a way to just, keep gaining weight.
So do something before we eat.
After
we eat.
After we go to sleep.
I mean, even if you cannot go for a walk, make sure you're helping with the dishes. Standing on your feet, not sitting on a chair to do dishes or something like that. If you have a dishwasher, it's different. You could be sweeping around. You could be helping, your spouse.
I feel like people gonna hate you, low-key hate you, because you are giving a lot of men work to do.
This goes for the ladies too.
You gotta be active. You can just say one person is going to do all the cleaning. This country taught us contrary to everything we have learned in Africa. So
sometimes when you do these little things to help out, now your woman, or if you're a man, your woman appreciates it. But you're doing it for yourself to make sure you see, and your woman doesn't know you're doing for yourself. But you're helping her, and she starts appreciating you, like, oh man,
you're helping me. But
my husband is helping me do these things now, but you're doing it to keep yourself healthy and to prevent you from gaining weight to get this diabetes.
That is very,
it's
very
a good
smart.
thing.
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, you say, oh, let me get this. You're helping out small in the house. It all adds up.
Well, today I spent the whole day cleaning the entire house by myself. So, hey, I got something accomplished, Uncle T. You see?
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We are really blessed to have you here, and for those who are wondering about the poster is going to be included in the video as we put everything together. So
for those that are listening, they cannot see.
Then they will have to try to.
Is it accessible like online?
No, but I think you take pictures of it. And
I'm saying for those with audio.
With audio,
no, they will try to make their way to visual to watch it.
We
would direct them.
They can check your YouTube and other things channels to see some of these things.
Trying to get
we can
more
put.
viewers.
You have the photos, right?
No, not yet.
Okay, we will take it and post it even on social media if they want to see it that as well. I think that will really help them a lot. We are blessed. This has been a lot of
this is
information.
We are very privileged for you to take your time out of your busy schedule, because you are busy.
Especially doctors, man.
No,
it's never easy. You can get a doctor just like that.
Oh no, yeah.
But yeah, before it's no, I want to get it
More,
so.
yes.
You say you work at children hospitals.
Yes.
If any of our viewers, parents say like, oh man, maybe I don't trust the Muzungus,
White people. White
I
doctors.
don't trust the white doctor there. I rather reach out to you. Maybe I feel more comfortable you explaining to me what's going on and all these things. Is there a way for the people in the community to reach out to you? And
Yes, I maybe reach through email,
Okay.
and my email is kriverson, the number 1 at hotmail.com.
Okay.
And also, I'll provide you guys. Theo has my cell phone number, so if anything, if people want to reach out to me, they can go through Theo and you to if they have questions or they want to set up a meeting, a group meetings, or they want to be part of your podcast discussion. Maybe in the future you guys can invite people and have seating this. We have some chairs here,
Yeah,
and
they
then
can
they can ask questions directly, and then we can provide answers to them the best way we can. So through email and my phone number is accessible. If I'm not working, I'm happy to help people. So the other thing, I want to get back to this poster. So I didn't mention this. So this one on the left hand side, this second poster that says "Continue your journey with diabetes." Conversation map. That one shows the short-term complications and some of those things we mentioned about, and also the long-term complications. The long-term complications is where it's very important for people to know some of these things. We talk about the nerve damage, your kidneys being affected. Some people end up going on dialysis and all these things.
Wow.
Those are long-term complications of diabetes, going blind. So these are very important for people to be aware of, that this diabetes, if it's not being managed properly, first of all, there's no cure for it, but it's treatable and it's manageable.
Ooh.
And so
just
you
like HIV.
right, but this is even
Wait.
better, because with HIV, if you get HIV, you need medications. With this, you can lose weight, and really that will help. If you're somebody who's obese, that can really help with the way the disease progresses. So it's very important that people understand that they can manage this and they can beat it. I mean, they can get to a point where they don't have to be on insulin. Like on that poster, you can see that we have medicines that we can give to people to take by mouth orally, or there's certain medications that can inject into their body, and one of them is insulin. So you see somebody with type 2 diabetes where their insulin is kind of impaired, so you need insulin, and they have to get these insulin medications, and these insulin medications are very, very expensive. So like you said before, if you have Medicaid, make sure you take advantage, because Medicaid covers these insulins. So if you get to that point, but don't try to stay on the insulin forever. You can manage this disease and get off the insulin if you exercise. And that's one of the things you can see is people exercising, and it says in that flag there, say go for your goal. So they're exercising. Some people are walking. Walking is very important. Some people think they have to run every day to really maintain their weight, but exercising at least half an hour or to an hour a day is very important for your body. So you can walk just an hour a day. You can walk early in the morning for 30 minutes and walk 30 minutes after you finish your dinner, or maybe do things in the house that maybe is half an hour of exercise for you. Those are very important things. And healthy eating is very important. Keeping active. You always have to keep active. Don't be idle, sit idle, just, not. If you're not reading a book where you're sitting, or, try not to be somebody who just sits and watch TV all day while you've eaten a whole bunch of, starch foods, like our foods. And the thing that I want people to also know is know your ABCs. Your ABCs are basically A is for your hemoglobin A1C, which I talk about, the test that shows your level of where you are as a diabetic, type 2 diabetic. Your B is for your blood pressure. What diabetes also does is it can affect your blood pressure. So you have to know your blood pressure to make sure you maintain your blood pressure in a certain normal range that we want it to be. And that's usually less than 120/80. And your C is for cholesterol. Now, your cholesterol is very important. With type 2 diabetes, sometimes people have high triglycerides, which is a form of kind of cholesterol. And we also have good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. Your good cholesterol is called the HDL, and your bad cholesterol is called your LDLs. You want to make sure that you have high good cholesterol, your HDL. So when you go for your physical a year, make sure when they do your labs, your cholesterol levels, you check your HDL to make sure your HDL is in the optimal range, is higher, and then your triglycerides is lower. Those are very important things for you if you're diabetic or somebody who's trying to stay healthy. Make sure your cholesterol is also being managed, because all of these things diabetes affect all these things, your blood pressure and your cholesterol levels. So it's not just one thing, it's just all the organs in the body can be affected, your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your nerves, your nervous system. That's why, I said, your nerves in your feet can all be destroyed, and also your nerves as a man, your sexual activity can be affected because your nerves may not be. It may not be pumping blood enough to do the work.
Oh wow! Health in general, coming from Africa, you just hear all those things. Oh, the person died of this, the person this.
Yeah.
But you never get to experience. Here we have this opportunity where we can see everything, the science behind it, the education, and all these things, and just sitting here listening to how you are describing some of these things. It tells me that, like, regardless, we have to do better as human.
Yes.
I understand most of us from Africa, we believe we are 100% healthy and all these things, but we are right now living in this country where it's highly polluted. A lot of things are not cooked well. A lot of things are not, we're not meant to be for our body, but we are not exposed to it. We have to take the extra step, going on, living healthy life and just be better for ourselves.
Yeah. Speaking of cooking, what about cooking and microwaving?
Well, the microwave debate has been that there's radiation exposure when you put food in the microwave for too long.
Oh.
Because all these radiation, these microwaves and all these things, they said it's radiation exposure, but it all depends on how long you put the food in. If you're using it for like a minute or two to warm your food, it's fine. But people who use it to cook,
10 minutes.
This is what I mean. Like, in our countries, in Africa, I think sanitation was the main problem, where people would die from malaria or some sort of infectious
diseases.
But like things like cancers and diabetes, it was not common.
For rich people.
It was not common.
Diabetes was for rich people.
Yeah.
and you come in here and then people are doing all kinds of things. But I think if you can use a microwave, but I think it's for warming food, certain things quick, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah,
but
like those small stuff.
Yeah,
like
but not for like,
meal.
cooking. When it comes to cooking, I think the stove is there to use the stove and the oven to cook certain things, with it. I think that's more important because we've been spoiled with the Western lifestyle, but I think if you're African, you don't have the means to, be able to afford certain things, like to be able to afford gym membership, unless where you live has a place for you to work out. If you're not able to be physically active on your own to do the walk-ins and other things, you're putting yourself at more risk, because like in this country, people that can afford eating healthy, afford gym membership, and afford certain things, they can eat a lot of food. But you see the life expectancy in this country for men is higher. And women is even higher. But that means even if you are African, if you can eat your healthy local foods, but if you're able to balance it with eating fruits and vegetables and exercising and keeping active, I think you can live longer. I mean, we know for sure that some of our great grandparents live way longer, in back home, and they did not have the luxury for gym membership and all these things, but because they were active and they were not lazy, they were providing for the families, and women are even active and physically active in our countries and do things, taking care of children and doing all kinds of things. They're able to stay active. But here you have the luxury, you can be spoiled to eat whatever, there's you get tired, you don't want to prepare food. I think it's always best if people can prepare food at home than eating out, because most of the food out is high in salt. So sodium intake is high, and all those things are bad for your blood pressure. And then the cholesterol, they use so many things, things are fried, but if you make it from home, you know how much you're putting in. And most of the food out here, it's also processed, like you can go to McDonald's and get like nuggets or something. It's already processed. They've already made it and put it in the refrigerator for
it's just sitting
so
there.
long. And then they bring it, they ship them, and they're using it, and when you can make your own food at home, first of all, it's cheaper, it saves you money, and also it may taste better for you the way you like it. How much salt to put in, how much oil to use to fry or to cook it or to bake it, or
you
all
have
of that
control
stuff.
of what's
exactly good. And that's what we used to have back home. But when you're here with your work busy schedules everything, you may be going to school, you may be having a business, you may be so tired that you don't want to cook.
You want just quick and go.
But in all your quick and goes, make sure that you are exercising, because at some point it does add up. I mean, you're not being physically active and taking care of yourself. And also, one of the things with Africans is they don't go for checkups. So,
talk about it.
It's important, like you said, if you have Medicaid or if you have any private insurance, even if you're healthy, just go for a yearly physical checkup. Go for your checkups, and, if there's any problems, they can be seen early rather than later on, because if it's not seen early, then it can cause problems later on. So if you have insurance, you go for physical checkup once a year. Regardless of whatever insurance you have, make sure you go for your checkups. And if you have type 2 diabetes, make sure you're going for checkups every 3 to 6 months, once a year for your eyes and your foot and everything. And every time you make a doctor office visit, make sure they're doing labs to see where your numbers are, because if something is going on with your kidneys, you will not know unless the lab shows that this is where your kidney function is, or your liver is, whatever is going on with your liver. So make sure we are taking the advantage of going to see our doctors once a year. If you're healthy, if you're not healthy, try to make an appointment at the earliest you can to see your doctor. If you have all the signs and symptoms we talk about, you need to see a doctor. Make an appointment to see one, and make sure you explain to your doctor what you're feeling, what is going on with you. That way the doctors can do more tests to make sure they can treat you early so that you can manage the diabetes or whatever problem is going on.
Wow.
It's funny. You look like you have more questions.
No, I think she has
But,
nailed it down with this. I think my last question was just going to be between not just Jollof and Ghana. No, this has been really a great segment. Thank you so much, Dr. Ken.
Thank you guys.
We apologize if you went a little over the board
It's the information.
The information. I think our people need to hear this. We are so thank you. We are so happy and thank you for having you. Hopefully this is not the last time. If the opportunity to present it,
that I will let you know.
we will figure something in the future to come back again, maybe with live audience and have conversation with people, and they can ask more direct question and all these things.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think Dr. Ken said a lot.
And Ghana Jollof, by the way, is better. Ghana Jollof is way better than Niger Jollof.
Hey, the world will never go to
my fellow Nigerians, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you guys stole the Jollof from Ghana and then made it your own, but Ghana Jollof is way better.
Yeah,
I think so.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my